Stirling, I know you watch all of the Formula One races still. I know you still go to many of them. The new one on the calendar last week was Baku. What did you think of that as a circuit? It was very tight in places.
I thought that was one of the best circuits I've seen. Certainly today. In my era, we had quite a lot of circuits that were difficult like that one. But I thought that was really good. I thought it asked a lot from the driver. They had to be careful, yet not too careful. And I thought it was excellent.
It was completely unforgiving. I mean, as Lewis found to his cost in qualifying, you know, what looked like being a pole lap ended up with a three-wheel car. And as he admitted, it was his own fault.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. I feel that the driver should be given the greatest challenge that we can. I mean, you're talking of the top 15 or 20 drivers in the world. So, I mean, that doesn't matter. I think it was a great circuit to look at, and I would think absolutely fabulous to race on.
What do you think of the rest of the season so far? I mean, my money, I have to say, I'm perhaps biased, but my money's still on Lewis to take this year's championship.
Good point. Lewis, if he was a bit more stabilised, I think I agree with you. But the way things are, I think it's still open. I reckon Nico's in there at the moment doing well, and I don't see why he shouldn't continue. But we'll have to see. That's what makes the sport so interesting.
Now, there are those that are saying, and you'll have heard this before, there are those that are saying that Lewis's lifestyle is interfering with his racing. Now, given the fact that it was a bit party on when you were racing, do you think the lifestyle matters, or has he perhaps lost control of that, or is that unfair criticism?
No, I think it does matter. I think, frankly, I know as a driver I had certain rules I set myself. I wouldn't overindulge in this or that, and I think that as we speak now, Lewis is one of the fastest drivers in the world, no doubt about it. But I think he's still got a little way to go, frankly. He's still inclined to make mistakes, and fair enough, he usually admits it.
It's interesting that he has become more mature in the way in which he deals with his mistakes, perhaps. He would blame the car. You know, a couple of seasons ago he would blame the car, he'd blame the team, he'd blame everybody. But now he just takes it on the chin, and that's much more honourable, I think.
Yeah, I think well, he's growing up, that's the point. I mean, he's only a youngster, let's face it, really. I mean, and the amount of races he's done, how many? Not that many. So he's still learning, and I think the great thing is that he would appear is learning by his mistakes. I mean, he's, I think, a driver who makes far less mistakes now than if you go back a year. And I think that's paying off for him.
Well, I know you have a lot of time for Lewis because we have discussed him before. What do you think of some of the younger guys coming up? People like Max Verstappen, Daniel Kvyat.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think probably the best guy is Vettel. I think Vettel is a very not underrated, because people who know do realise how good he is. But motor racing, the good thing about motor racing is we see new people come, others go out and others come in to replace them. But all the time at the moment, thank goodness, we are seeing good races. And I just hope that the organisers will get more difficult circuits. I think the drivers like difficult circuits. I mean, I think if you ask any driver, the race they want to win most probably is Monaco. Well, I mean, Baku was very similar to that. Not similar in layout exactly, but you had to be a bit careful what you're doing. So I think the sport of Grand Prix racing, I think, should be difficult and should be really only open to drivers who have great amount of ability.
I've likened it to 1/10 of 1% of humanity, perhaps capable of getting into a Formula One car. No more than that. It is only the very best of the very best.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the way it is, and that's the way hopefully it will continue. I mean, the more enjoyment a driver gets, the more he's going to like his racing. And the more he likes his racing, the faster he will go. And I think we're seeing some good circuits. I think we've got to get more of them, more circuits like Baku.
You've always said to me when we've talked in the past that motor racing is dangerous. Well, we know that. It says that on the back of all the tickets. And that there should always be that element of danger. That being said, what do you think of this idea of sort of cockpit protection for the drivers? Is that Is that perhaps a step too far?
For my 2 cents was yes. I can't see any realistic reason to have it, quite honestly. I really can't. I think it's not a good thing.
I mean, you won so many races in your long career, and you were always able to tour around and let people see you after the race, as all of your colleagues equally were. Once you put things on top of the cockpit, it's sports car racing, surely.
Yeah, it's sports car racing, but I mean, it's much more difficult for the public to see what the driver's doing, what he's like, and so on. I mean, there's no doubt sports cars are fantastic. Some of these cars, they really are, but they're not Formula One, and Formula One really should continue to be the greatest demand of anything, and let's keep it that way.
Now, there's another area that I did want to particularly talk to you about. I mean, your career was very much truncated when you were really at the height of your powers, and you could have gone on a lot longer. We all know that. We all accept that. But I remember we had a conversation some years ago about how you would choose the time at which you would have retired had you the option. And the reason I asked the question is because we're now seeing perhaps Jensen and Fernando, and you start to think maybe they should choose their time rather than have their time choose them.
I think that's very fair. In fact, I gave Jensen a call and said, you know, whilst you're waiting, which he is really, let's wait, I reckon he should go to the States, because I think it's a lot easier to win over there. With his amount of ability, which is very considerable, he would, in my opinion, still shine over there as brightly as he does here, or even brighter.
I mean, I rate both personally very, very highly as drivers. Fernando has an edge to his driving that perhaps Jensen never has quite had. I don't knock them as driver, but as in terms of his aggression sometimes in overtaking, Fernando has that little bit of an edge, as you did. But would they go into Indy cars in the States, or as is now becoming fashionable, you go into the media, you go on TV?
Well, and I think if they can find really good circuits, and race our type of racing over there, which they do. Let's face it, they do have our type of racing on quite a few courses, and I think that'd be a good place for one to bide the time before you can go back and rejoin the leading part of Formula Racing number one.
A lot of people thought that Mark Webber went into sports car racing too soon. Personally, I think he made a decision that suited him at the time. It suited him best, and it's been very successful in sports car racing. It's worked out very well for him, but not for everyone.
Sports car racing is great. Some of them are fantastic races, but it is a lot easier than Formula One. I mean, Formula One is meant to be the most difficult and challenging and rewarding, and I think it is. And I think that Mark, I think, has done a lot of good things. Whether he would ever have got anywhere if he kept with Formula One, I'm inclined to think he wouldn't.
It's always enjoyable to talk to you because you don't hold back. You do voice an opinion, and that's not always popular these days, but I would rather the honest truth about a driver and your view on that driver. There are some currently driving who perhaps should think about it's time to go and let the younger guys come in.
Yes, certainly, but we've got to find the younger guys to take over. It's no good replacing a guy who's a bit old with somebody who's younger and no faster. I mean, what we really need is a few more really, really excellent Formula One drivers, and there aren't that many around. I mean, it is a sport that's fairly short of drivers, and so it should be. I mean, we want to make it the pinnacle of perfection, and I think that can happen.
Are you amazed, though, that the youth of some of the drivers, I mean, Max comes in at 17.
Yeah, I mean, that is completely unrealistic, isn't it? I mean, 17, I think, well, my God, what would I have done? I certainly would have done what he did, and whether I did it well or not, I don't know. But certainly I wanted to always get in there, fight, and I think it's wonderful to see these guys. And one mustn't forget people like Alonso and so on, who also are doing a great job themselves, that's for sure.
So, I've come back to a question I touched on earlier. Has Lewis got another championship in him? Will he make it 4? Because 4 seems to be the goal these days.
Yes. Well, I think in truth, I think Vettel, it belongs with Vettel this year. Myself, will he make fourth? Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's with the right team. He's with Mercedes, who have to be the best team to be with, really. And he is quite a fighter. I mean, he'll have a go. And so I think we just got to wait and see whether he has got that bit more that you need when you start talking about winning Formula One races.
I was rereading a little piece about Fangio, who you teamed with for quite a long time. It was about mental attitude, and it was about a race, I think, in Buenos Aires, I think it was, where his leg was burning on the exhaust pipe. I think it was quite a famous story. And he drove through that by persuading himself that he wasn't being injured, that he could carry on. And it was a race he won. I think it was a non-championship race.
Yeah.
But is that sort of mental toughness is really what marks the
exactly.
Formula One men from the boys.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you need a bit of that and quite a bit of other things as well. But that's an important thing. And also just the desire to compete, to get out there and fight, whether they've got anything wrong or not. Just get out there and say, right, well, I'm going to try and win this race.
Thank you, Stirling. Thank you very much, Stirling. Thank you very much.